Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 4 of Code Geass R2. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, Lelouch has sort of enacted his master plan, by which I mean he's effectively trying to get back into the game here because he's being closely watched by the agents of the Britannian Empire, chief among them being Rollo, his own supposed brother. And while Lelouch does manage to get the drop on everyone, he sort of underestimates Rollo because we've become aware that he has a Geass of his own, one which can seemingly stop time, but, I'm more inclined to believe that it can really just paralyze people. So I'm wondering if we're just going to pick right back up with Lelouch and Rollo. And it seems like we aren't, which is rather unfortunate because things ended with Lelouch ambushing Rollo and, saying like, hey, I got you, I win. But then, there was a little switcheroo and now Lelouch is in trouble. I guess we're getting a little bit of an explanation on Rollo and what his whole deal is. So it really does seem like he can just paralyze people or something. Everyone within a range, I guess. Now it is rather unfortunate that Rollo's been in this position where he has such an aptitude for killing that he's been doing it for as long as he can really remember, and that he has no real idea of how many people he's killed. Like, when you have to compare it to nobody remembers how many times they've brushed their teeth, like, that's bad, So I really do feel like the stoppage of time, like, that's probably a little bit too far-fetched. Obviously it puts me in mind of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So... Ooh. Okay, so Lelouch is already sort of making note of things. Now, okay, so I guess if the camera keeps playing and all that, yeah, okay, time doesn't actually stop. That would be a little bit too far-fetched, I think, because like most of the Geasses as we see them, they normally affect the mind. Lelouch hypnotizes people. Mao could read people's thoughts, and now Rollo can essentially incapacitate people. Like, paralyze isn't necessarily the case because, like, they sort of lose all perception of time, too, momentarily. So, this is interesting. I feel like Lelouch is lying here, where he's basically saying that he would sell out C2. And that's interesting, because, like, I don't think he would do that, but, then again, what do I know? I feel like I'm in for a lot of twists and turns here. You know, these first few episodes have already been pretty remarkable in that regard, especially considering how at the time I wasn't too keen on this first episode of R2. Although, on the other hand, I'm wondering if maybe this is just a ploy to get eye contact with Rollo. Because, like, really, Lelouch just needs to, like, hit him with the, obey me from now on, and, like, that's it, you know? Ooh. Okay, so C2's bringing up the idea of being separated from Zero and all that, and, I feel like they've got bigger things to worry about with the Chinese Federation seemingly acting of their own accord. It seems like the situation's a little bit more complex than it initially seemed. Ooh, okay. So I guess whatever this guy's game is, it was Zero who sort of set things into motion, if unwittingly. And I guess Lelouch is actually just sort of considering selling out C2, which is pretty remarkable to me considering she was, ostensibly responsible for kicking everything off. Lelouch had always planned to topple the Britannian Empire, and C2 is just the person who sort of set things into motion much earlier than he had initially planned on. And I guess while we're talking about like ongoing problems and potentially selling out C2, there's the issue of the Order of the Black Knights, many of whom have been captured and now are facing a summary execution. And of course the idea is the Britannian Empire is hoping Zero will act, which of course he must, right? The question is, how can he do that while maintaining his cover and getting everyone off his back? Because, he's basically under constant surveillance at this point. Ooh. So there's trouble in paradise, I guess. It seems like Rollo has been, killing people. We did see that in the previous episode where he just, killed a guy because he walked into the room accidentally. I feel like that was certainly unwarranted, but it's interesting that there's sort of trouble in paradise here, because Rollo is essentially zealously following his orders. But at the same time, if people are sort of unsettled to be around him, and they don't really like him, then, maybe he should take up Lelouch on his offer and switch sides. After all, if they're already going to treat you poorly, why not sort of like post hoc rationalize a reason for it. Ooh. So the Britannians are really thinking this out and playing like three-dimensional chess here. And it is interesting that Cornelia is now lost. I don't recall that being the case, but I guess a lot of things have happened in the time skip. Alright. So it seems like there's dissension within the Chinese Federation here. Or rather, there was dissension. There is no longer dissension now. And seeing as how that one guy did the killing, this probably doesn't bode well for any alliances. Man, so time is certainly short. The executions are basically imminent, and at this point, I don't think Lelouch really has a solid plan in place. It's rather unfortunate because when you get down to it, none of these Black Knights really... Well, I can't say they don't deserve to die. I guess from the perspective of the Britannian Empire, they do. But, I guess they don't deserve to have Lelouch abandon them totally. And, that's the second time this has come up where they're sort of like talking about needing a miracle. I mean, that might be true in a sense, but I feel like they're going to get something else, because, like, all these little characters are thinking their own things. Like, Ogi, he was involved with Villetta, and she's clearly having some second thoughts here, so, maybe they won't get a miracle, but they will get some sort of intervention. Okay. Yeah, so this certainly isn't miraculous, but I'm pretty sure that was Lelouch on the video feed, essentially saying, like, look, we need to have face-to-face communication so our comms won't get hacked. That's just like a little trick to get someone within Geass range. Ooh, okay. So I guess C2 is sort of brokering a minor truce with the Chinese Federation that, if they were to start firing on the Britannians, then it wouldn't break out into all-out war, but I don't know, that is a verbal agreement. You can only trust words so far, especially the words of a foreign power. Not to say like the Chinese Federation is inherently untrustworthy or anything, but frankly, in C2's position, I'd be expecting them to, hang them out to dry at the first opportunity. So it seems like this execution is not just about executing the Black Knights, but it's more of like a repudiation of Zero. Because this guy's essentially saying, like, look, you guys were hoping for a miracle, you stupid 11s. Zero's not coming to save you. He's not coming to save them, his lieutenants. Like, just, give up and submit to Britannian rule. So I guess the key question is, oh, never mind. Yeah, Zero's intervening. So, it's very interesting that Callan and C2 are maybe not distraught, but a little concerned because he hasn't brought them in on the plan. I mean, that is something, because, like, things are about to get hairy. So, that's interesting. Zero, he basically wants them to be acknowledged as prisoners of war and therefore subject to certain protections. Because, like, that is sort of kind of true in that he established the United States of Japan. Still a silly name, of course, but, the idea is if you do take prisoners in a war, you can't just execute them summarily, because presumably they surrendered or were captured, I mean, surely they haven't been put on trial, right? Yeah, so things are interesting, because Lelouch is essentially walking right into the lion's den here. Sure, he has a nightmare frame, but he's just got one, and those other nightmare frames, they're pointing small arms at the condemned prisoners, but that doesn't mean they're not also equipped to handle another nightmare frame. So, I'm wondering if he's gonna pull another, like, Agent Orange style thing, where, he Geasses, the person in charge and has him give an unconventional order. Ooh, okay. So he's issuing a challenge for a one-on-one duel. That's very ballsy, but I feel like it might be a little bit misguided. Like, he's got to have something else up his sleeve. Because, I can't see the Britannian Empire being willing to abide by the rules of a one-on-one duel here to decide the fate of these political enemies. This certainly isn't an elegant plan, but there's got to be something else to it. Yeah, and I guess, of course, the Chinese Federation ended up not being too trustworthy. The idea is they're sort of biding their time here. If Zero is capable, then they're fine to be allies. If not, then, they have to reconsider their options. It's interesting that Lelouch is also, fighting with words here, trying to essentially get this guy to drop the pretense of having a moral high ground. Yeah, okay, so there we go. Lelouch had a plan here. He never intended to fight fairly, even a little bit. So I guess the question is... Oh boy, okay. So he's just tilting the whole thing, which effectively wipes out the military detachment. Okay, yeah, so I guess that's it then, The remaining Black Knights sweep in, rescue the other Black Knights, and get out of Dodge before anything else can really happen. Well, maybe the shield was a good idea. Whoa, buddy. That guy's having a real bad day. So I guess, wow. For these people who are effectively chained to these, I don't know what you'd call them, not stockades, I guess. It's probably not a good place to be falling over like that when they're really only fastened by the neck. I mean, it's kind of immaterial at this point, but, I'm wondering if that little shot of Villetta, if that was an expression of relief, Because, I'm sure some small part of her is happy that Ogi wasn't executed. But at the same time, this is also contrary to her allegiances, It's always nice to see the Garen Mark II just absolutely destroying the enemy. I mean, it is pretty cool, but the radiation wave, that's just a horrifying weapon, Anything with radiation, really. Now, I suppose this is the other factor here. Rollo. Clearly he's not just sitting around, but the question is, will his intervention be enough? The idea was he had a special machine, maybe not quite as special as the Lancelot, but, otherwise highly capable. So he seems to be under the understanding that Lelouch was lying to him, which, probably a safe bet. But I'm wondering, how capable is Rollo in a Nightmare frame? In a setting like this, with essentially a melee combat. Ooh. Okay, so that was interesting. Lelouch interceded to protect Rollo. Now the question is... Oh, okay. So he's saying, look, we don't want to provoke war with the Chinese. Understandable, but in actuality, he protected Rollo. So the question is, why would he do this? Essentially, is it his stated reason that sure, the implanted memories weren't true, but they're true to me, or is this more of a pragmatic thing of I want to essentially get an agent on the inside? I mean, it might be cynical, but I think the latter is probably closer to the truth. Yeah, so I feel like at this point, Rollo's allegiances are now significantly compromised. And for Lelouch, this is certainly a good thing to have someone so capable and with a Geass of their own on his side. Although, it's nice that Rollo saved him, but, oh, wait a minute. No, Rollo's posing as someone, right? So things have gotten very interesting. This Lord, what was it, Lord Kimmel? So he's, he's quote-unquote a traitor, but Man, all sorts of things are going on. Okay. Yeah, things are very interesting because Rollo, like, he's clearly compromised mentally at this point. But the question is, where do his allegiances truly lie now? Because I feel like in this position, he's in far too deep. You know, he would have to just switch sides. And I feel like Lelouch is deliberately trying to drive this home here. Okay. So I guess the Chinese Federation intervenes saying like, hey, like, knock off this fighting or we're gonna start a hot war. And, you know, if there's anything that's a good preventative, it's the threat of engaging in more hostilities. You know, engaging in a war on two fronts, that's never a good thing. So, it seems like this was an unmitigated victory for Lelouch and company. I mean, he's sort of like flipped Rollo to his side or otherwise shaken him. He's freed a lot of the Black Knight loyalists. And he's really making an effort to just, like, flip Rollo to his side. And, you know, well, I'm wondering if maybe he's just trying to, like, shake the guy up. Like, it seems to be working one way or another, but if he can just convert him to his cause, then that would be even better. Yeah, alright, so this is what Lelouch was planning. Basically, like, you know, he set up this whole scenario to occur. Very, very cunning, you know. And there was definitely a calculated risk. Ooh. Okay, yeah, so there's no goodwill here. That was just a lie. Like, Lelouch is being cynical here. It's like, look, you took Nunnally's place, I'm going to use you for all you're worth, and then that's it. That is ruthless. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.